So we are at the 0 second mark of season 2, episode 1, and I won't need to start the timer, which is a great relief to me. But I will count us in, and on 3, we will all press play together. So, is everyone good to go?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so on 3, 1, 2, 3. Ba-bum. It's funny because it's not Netflix. Oh, is this a Christmas episode?
Nah, it's just winter, I think, isn't it?
Oh, that would make more sense, I suppose. They don't celebrate Christmas, so it would make sense that it's not technically a Christmas episode, it's just winter.
Well, didn't the season end around Christmas time? Season 1.
Oh boy, don't ask me that. Oh, possibly?
I can see this being like sort of a January,
Yeah, I just think of it as winter. I've got to say, I kind of forgot she got pulled off the counter. When I watched this last night, I was like, why is she at the phone bank?
Well, she seems to be having a good time. Did someone just have their hand up? Sorry, it flashed and then disappeared, so I don't know if someone accidentally raised their hand. Oh, perfect. Hi, Nancy.
Hello.
Hi, friend. How are you today?
Good. And she always seems to be doing such a wonderful job at everything she does.
Absolutely.
Why are all these people calling a department store? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
I wonder if this is similar to what we saw in season 1 with her kind of like perkiness in the first like 1 or 2 days of the job, and then realizing, oh, this is a job. Oh no.
Then maybe they did a catalog too or something, and these are the people
That's
directing calls
true.
for
I
catalog.
mean, it might be customers and vendors and lots of stuff, but it's just funny. Like
It's
the
a
rate
lot.
of people calling.
She's afraid of her phone.
I also am terrified when my phone rings because I feel like no one calls each other anymore. Everyone just texts. Well, she knows how to sell things. What is the contingency plan for her eye placement?
Yeah, who knows?
You guys are funny.
Oh, geez. That's possibly how most arguments happen. Asked, assumed the same thing. Oh, yeah. The mother's upset because he kept it to himself that Joel wanted to get back together with Midge, right?
Yep.
He did not just say lamb's good. Oh my god. Completely unrelated, but I've been seeing a lot of press today from Milo for his joining of the Maisel universe. So that's fun.
It will be fun to see Milo in two shows at the same time.
He deserves it.
And also, I can't wait to see Kelly Bishop with Maisel.
Yes. I like her more right now too, Abe.
I do kind of like the way they do the transition.
Oh, that was very cool. That was an
Yeah, I love
amazing
that.
shot.
It's like I love that. So it's like flipped the globe.
How do you think they got those two statue building things to stand on top of each other? That was impressive.
It's the Matrix.
Movie magic.
Oh, movie magic. So this is what people mean when they say Amy has a thing for Paris, right? I never got that before because I've only seen Gilmore Girls.
I think it is what they mean.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit last night, and the fact that she got to actually go to Paris and film there is kind of cool.
Oh, that sweet, sweet Amazon money.
Exactly.
What was John calling it? Jeff Bezos rocket money?
Yeah,
Yep, there you go.
yeah, one of the rockets that he didn't need to put on the ship. That's what it is.
Do we know how long she's been gone at this point? Did they say exactly?
She'd been
I
gone a
think
few
they
days.
said like, yeah, a few days.
Okay. Well,
Wasn't it
that's
like 4 or 5 days or something like that?
because I was going to say if
Yeah.
it's been weeks, I would be pissed that it took them this long.
And it was like a weekend, like a long weekend.
Was there anyone in the room last night who knows French who has any idea what she was saying?
I think we did.
Because usually when someone speaks a different language in a show, the subtitles will come up, but I'm assuming they don't want you to know what she's saying.
Sometimes they come up and sometimes they don't. But I think you're right. I think they want us to
Mary posted something.
make assumptions.
Mary posted something about what she was saying.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Mary posted because she I think speaks
Oh,
some French.
she's yelling at the police that will come and kill you.
Oh, okay. Thank you guys.
But see, when Rose was talking to her, we got subtitles. So it's when they want us to know what the conversation is.
Yeah. Oh, this is a cute apartment. Welcome in, Carol. We are at 13 minutes and 24 seconds. Hi, friend.
Hello. Hello. I missed it last night. I completely forgot about it until it was like 45 minutes past.
Ah, it happens to the best of us. Do you need a timestamp again, honey, or are you okay?
I don't even have my TV on yet, so I'll check in when I'm there.
Perfect.
Thanks.
I'm thinking this is mostly people who were here last night, and there's very few international people.
We're
Yeah, I
just
don't know
supporting
where my
Lee.
Europeans are. I don't know where everyone is today.
Here we are. I was just noticing that.
She has a dog?
She does have a dog. Did you hear the dog's name?
I didn't. Was it Abe?
Simone.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I think it's a very sweet apartment.
Okay, timestamp, please.
We are at 16:36. Have you watched before, or do you need kind of a gist of what's going on?
Oh, I've watched it a couple times before.
Oh,
I'm good.
perfect. Being out of cheese is an emergency. I would agree. Is this a different set? I haven't gotten a good look around yet, but it looks different.
What, the bar?
Yeah, maybe I'm not used to seeing close-ups of just this part of it.
I
But it just
was gonna
looked
say it's
different.
probably the angles.
They better stay away from her. Oh, we're back on that joke. Oh my god. I do like that she knows she's in danger, so she's like just debating what gender to say she is. I mean, she seems to be thriving in Paris. Let her stay. Hi, Amanda. Welcome in. We are at 24:28 if you would like to join us. Oh, this reminds me of a little restaurant, a little Italian restaurant that I go to in Amsterdam. It's just this cozy little corner of the world, and it looks just like this.
Diana, he said period, like you do.
I mean, she's right. If your husband wrongs you, how are the two of you different? Just bonding with her abductors.
Yeah, I love this little storyline.
For a second, I thought that music was coming from the house they were bringing Susie into, and I was like, are they going to a party?
Back in Paris.
Ugh, these street views do nothing to calm my need to be in Paris. Is she gonna do a show in Paris? She didn't realize she was in a drag show.
She's very sheltered.
That makes sense, though. Oh my god, she actually is going to do a thing. Mm, this is not great for me. Was this the controversial part of the discussion last night by any chance?
We can talk about it when you're done watching.
That was a very cool transition. Hey Tiff, I don't know when you came in, but we are at 42 minutes and 6 seconds if you want to join us for the last 10 minutes. Oh, well, this is an interesting turn of events. I definitely didn't think we'd get to see them talking the night it happened.
See, don't you feel bad for him? He's all sad now.
Oh, yeah, terrible. That's hilarious.
You like that reference?
Oh, that was so funny. The fact she's just laughing and eating dinner with them and she still has no idea why they abducted her.
Makes you wonder how many times she's been abducted.
Yeah, she seems fairly comfortable with the whole thing. I'm assuming it's the other agent, right? Who badmouthed her all over town.
I think we should talk about that afterwards as well,
Okie dokie.
so we don't have too much conversation.
This is a really sweet shot. It's very pretty. That's not back. That's not CGI, is it? Or green screen, I should say.
They did shoot in Paris.
I do love Joel's mother. She's very dramatic. Oy vey. Well, that was a cool ending.
Did you like it?
I have some feelings about some parts of it. It was
Well,
beautifully
hang on,
done.
Lee. Hang on,
Yeah,
Lee, real quick. You might want to see if anybody else wants to come up and talk to you about this episode
yeah, of
before
course.
we
Anyone
go.
down on the beanbags, as always, please come up, whether you were there last night or not. This is your first time watching it. Please, anyone is welcome to come up and chat with us.
Because I know a few of them had some feelings too. All right, sorry.
Hi,
Didn't mean to
Regina.
interrupt.
Hello.
Did you have feelings last night?
I did. I did. I did have some feelings about it last night, but they didn't come all at once. I kind of had to sit with the episode for a little bit as I was listening to others discuss. And a lot of them were hitting points about the episode that I didn't like. And I was like, yeah, that makes so much sense. I just had an epiphany. And yeah, I have feelings about this episode.
Can I ask, the way that I'm hearing last night went, there was, I don't know if it was the whole episode, but it sounded like there was one very big controversial discussion. Was there one thing that caused more controversy than most, or was it just the episode?
Diana, do you think it was the how they showed us the reveal of her finding out Joel saw her stand up?
Yeah, I think that was like so John particularly had a problem with the flashback because he doesn't love flashbacks in general. Um and I think we all kind of had a little bit of an issue with the flashback, or at least I did. I thought the flashback was out of place, a little too long. It just kind of took you out. I mean, his argument was it takes you out of Paris, and like, like he's, you're in Paris, you're kind of in the monologue, and like, and then it takes you completely out of it. And I just don't think it was a smart choice to have that giant flashback there. um yeah, am I getting that right?
I
I,
think so.
I think so. I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head on that.
Yeah, because
Go on, Chris.
he.
Sorry.
I was going to say one of the things that we didn't really care for in that particular flashback was the. Well, Diana had kind of said it first, and then after John her discussed it, I kind of was like, "Oh yeah," that we got to see a lot of Lenny Bruce's set. Because if it was just her telling the audience the story of her finishing her set, having a great time, finding out Joel was there, going to see him, why would we hear Lenny Bruce's set on stage? And that was
Yeah.
one of the things that we didn't like about that flashback when we were discussing it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think for the most part, I think I'm gonna have to do something similar to Regina. I think a lot happened in the episode, so I'll probably have more opinions this weekend once I've kind of sat on it for a while. There were kind of a few moments that kind of mm, didn't I didn't take issue with, but didn't really come across as great to me. And I get the purpose of that scene of her doing her stand up in a random drag club in Paris. I get that that was to
Didn't
tell
it
the
feel
story.
forced?
It it essentially, yes, it brought back some issues that I took with season one, which was beyond the first episode, because the first episode she was drunk, she was like devastated, she was very mentally all over the place. So when she kind of put herself up on a random stage and just started talking at people, it felt, we do weird things when we're in a weird place, but she kind of just kept doing that through season one. She kept just assuming that whatever was happening in this place, whatever these people were there for or to listen to, it didn't matter because she wanted to be up on stage and she wanted to talk about her issues. So now she's completely gone to another level. She's gone to a country where the people she's talking at don't even speak the language she's speaking, and is still assuming that this is an important thing for her to do, that she needs to stand in front of them and just talk about her life. And it's just a very big issue of entitlement. It just kind of rubs me a bit the wrong way that she keeps thinking she can just get up on these random stages and just talk at people.
And it's not even like stages at clubs, right? Because she did that a lot at the Gaslight before Susie took her in and, kind of hone in her skills, right? She did it at someone last night. I think it might have been Diana. I think she pointed out that she did it at that protest in the park
Yes.
too.
She was
Just
invited up,
completely
I
out of the
believe, at
blue.
that one, but still, yeah, the same kind of idea. Sorry,
Oh
Regina, I didn't
yeah.
mean to
Well,
cut you off.
We were making jokes about all the places she could use as a microphone, and that's why we brought the protest in the park.
yeah. We were joking about, I mean, if you watch that scene in the club, like the microphone appears out of nowhere and is literally like in a spotlight, like it's just kind of gleaming up there waiting for her. And you're right, like one of my arguments last night was like, this could not be more unrealistic because first of all, she's in a foreign country. Like when you're in a foreign country and you're experiencing the nightlife, like you're just gonna experience it. You're not gonna like, take it upon yourself to fix something, or if you find yourself on stage, like I like who like I just it's so unrealistic. And it's also my biggest issue with it is that it makes sense that she, as a woman in 1958 or 9, it should be now because it seems to be January 1959, that an American woman finds a sheltered American woman finds herself in Paris at a drag club and is completely bewildered. Like, that makes sense to me. But it does not make sense to me that she would start talking about it to the audience that came to see that show, that paid to come and see that show. Because, in general, the French culture and French pop culture is like way ahead of us, like they are accepting of things that American culture was not, like earlier, right? So there's sort of a level of like angry American or ugly American party of one, right? Like where she's just sort of she appears in this space and is just sort of like, what? And not only like I think a real Maisel episode would have Midge. Oh, sorry, that was my that was my
Wait,
You were
doorbell.
aren't you
terrified
supposed
just
to say
now.
Elsa?
Hold that thought. Hold on.
That's okay. I
Yeah,
think I'll just expand on that point very slightly with as well my knowledge of French culture being people don't really accept anyone who not only doesn't speak French fluently, but don't even try to speak French. If you walk into
Exactly.
anywhere in France, particularly Paris, and you have no knowledge of French, like there are people who might even speak fluent French, but if they do it with an accent that isn't French, you're frowned upon. You like by a lot of the French people, they don't appreciate anyone kind of strolling in and just speaking English to them, and some of them won't even talk to you. So this idea that this whole club of French people are just like, oh yes, this funny woman who doesn't speak French,
Well, but
it's just
also
so weird.
I really appreciate the American who is now interpreting for her because she does it beautifully, and that's kind of a nice moment, and I really like that actress. But it makes zero sense to me that an entire club full of French people would find Midge Maisel's humor funny. Like I just don't think it would translate. It shouldn't. You know what I mean? Like her frame of reference is just so different. And she's essentially like, what? Like, what is this? Like, she's not playing a character. Like, it would be different if she came up on stage and played a character of like bewildered American, but she's so sincere. And I just feel like they would be like so appalled by her, because it just seems so uncouth in a
She's like
way, it's
sneering
just
at what
not.
they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I made the argument last night that like it would make more sense for this show if she experienced that, looked around and said, "Oh my goodness," and then like found herself in another place where she started talking about this thing I experienced in Paris in a Paris nightclub. Like, isn't that insane? Like, that would go over differently in a different space, like maybe back at the Gaslight. Like, can you believe it? Like there they have women, the men dressing as women. Like, oh my goodness, of course, I mean, of course, downtown New York, that was happening too. But like, I feel like her winning over the crowd does not track. Like this is one of those times where she should have either kept her mouth shut and saved it for another time, where it could have come out in a more funny way, or she should have bombed. Like I just think it was poor writing that she wins over this random nightclub crowd in Paris. Like
I completely
it's
agree.
it doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. And I like the only good thing about it was I do love that actress who plays the interpreter. I think she's beautiful and um funny. I found
She
her
did a
funny,
great job.
like she did a fantastic job. And the whole talking over one another thing is such like that's an ASPism, and it's also like a musical tactic. It's very, very performative. Um so sure, but like the rest of that, I mean, that whole scene I hate so much. I
I was
really
very
I don't like it.
uncomfortable. Yeah, that's exactly. I kept watching and I was like maybe I'm just being cynical. Maybe I should maybe just watch and enjoy it for what it is. It's a very romantic idea that she went to this beautiful foreign city and she won over the people and she was exposed to new things, and it's a very romantic idea. So I was sitting here like maybe I should just try and enjoy it for what it was, but I I couldn't. It was just very painful to me how unrealistic that was.
It's
And I have to wonder,
unrealistic.
is that a little bit of Amy almost being like, I'm sure I could do this maybe. Like
Yeah,
it's this idea of, well, if I'm this brilliant, surely I will overcome.
right. It's like, I mean, and Amy tends to do that, I think. I think that's usually the criticism of her characters that can do it all, is that they take it like a step too far. But I'm willing to, and I love this show obviously, but I'm willing to accept that Midge Maisel is a sparkly human who can do so much, and has particular flaws like Lorelai Gilmore, right? Like where she's like a little bit too compartmentalized, a little bit too perfect, and like has some blind spots. Like I'm totally fine with all that. It's just that this scene doesn't even work within the realm of the show that's been set up. Like, you know what I mean? Like the scene is out of character for the marvelous Mrs. Maisel the show. It just doesn't work for me. I think it's just not right. Like and I think there are some scenes like that in this show that like always kind of bug me, and because it's just not, it's not the show that they set up, and it bothers me. And it also is like such like, I don't know, like I'm wondering from you as a non-American what you think, but I think that this scene is so nationalistic American that to a gross point, like it doesn't make me feel good about like it just feels like an ugly American like piece of writing that is just like, oh god, we're also awesome in other countries, look at us, you know what I mean? Like,
I agree
I don't
with that,
know.
Diana, because I mean, I used to travel a lot overseas, and I totally get what you're saying, that that would not have gone over the way it did in the show in a lot of places. There might be few places, if there were a bunch of expats there, that might have gone for it. But other than that, I think she would have bombed, and they might have just taken her off stage.
Yeah, like I would have been happy if she found a bunch of expats, like, in a bar down the street and like talked about like how crazy this place is. You know what I mean? Like that would have been fine with me. But the fact that, I don't know, it just the very existence of this scene in this show, it just makes me cringe as an American, because it's like, American writer got to film her show in Paris, isn't that cool? And like kind of exploited Paris, in a way. You know what I mean? Like it just, I don't know. Maybe I have Emily in Paris on the brain too, because I just watched that and we're about to watch it again. But like there's a certain way that like we American writers and American, producers and stuff, like go into other countries and sort of like narratively um maybe get it wrong. And I just feel like, especially in the 50s, like she just wouldn't, I don't know. Like I actually think Gilmore Girls got this a little bit more right when they had Rory and Emily like go to Europe and they talked about traveling in Europe, because Rory and Lorelai had that like, oh, so you go to Europe and you stay at the Ritz and you don't have to experience the culture at all. Like, that's great. And like, there was such a disdain for that type of American traveler, right? Which I think is cool because it like points out the fact that, yeah, like if you go to another country, you should probably experience that country for what it is and not as, as Americanized as you possibly can. And I almost feel like ASP like goes back on that here in writing this scene, like because Midge Maisel wins over a crowd that she never, ever, ever would win over. Like it just wouldn't happen. I mean, I see Midge as like a very polished woman in New York. And I think a polished woman in New York sometimes doesn't make it in Paris. It's just almost too like they are too cool for us. You know what I mean? Like that's just kind of how I feel.
Yeah, what you were saying, like you were wondering kind of how I took this as a non-American. Like I would paint the Irish people as much more welcoming as an overall statement. Obviously individuals are different, but in an overall way, we're kind of a lot warmer and welcoming to outsiders than the French typically. But even if, let's say, I was sitting in a bar in Dublin and some random American woman walked in and just kind of got up on the stage and started telling us about her issues with her husband, I would be like, who does this woman think she is? And with great respect, I will say that I have experienced lesser versions of that with American tourists, like that kind, like that picture you painted, Diane. And obviously not all. I've actually made quite good friends with a lot of American tourists or visiting American students. But there is definitely that branch of American tourists who like swan in and they're like, aha, I'm here to conquer. It's like it's a very interesting attitude.
I have seen those people, Lee, when I've traveled.
Yeah, right.
Does
It's
anyone
very
does anyone
interesting.
remember the phrase "get the hook"?
Yeah, that's what I think they would have done to her in real life.
Oh, that's
Totally. I
funny.
mean, the what was I going to say? The other thing is that like yeah, like I think I lost my train of thought actually, but I can see what you're saying. Like, I mean, I visited Paris and Ireland on the same trip, and back when I was in my 20s, and it is a stark difference. You know what I mean? Like, the UK is just happens to be it's a little easier because we all speak the same language, basically. But yeah, like I definitely experienced that. But like, I don't know. I just feel like this just was a huge misstep, and like just the wrong way to do Paris. Like you can see how her mother is adapting quite well. And
Right.
so there's a story there. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, how come her mother is so
I love
comfortable here?
I
She went to
love
school
Paris
there.
Rose.
Yeah.
Love Paris Rose. I think she,
She looks like she's having a great
blended in.
time.
Yeah, she was just doing it right.
Yeah,
And there's something
she's
oh, go
go
ahead.
ahead, Diana. I was just gonna say, like, she's befriending her neighbors, the locals. She's going to the nearby the bistro. She's got a little dog, and she's just drinking the wine and smoking and enjoying herself. She's take like that. I can't remember who exactly said the comment, but whether it's the Americanized version or the actual culture that you are in, and that's what Rose seems to be doing. She's actually looking around her and saying, well, this is how the people live, and I'm getting to know the people, and thus I will live as such. It's a much different version of existing in that space. And
Yeah,
I think she looks like she's having a great time. I think she should stay.
yeah, it's like she's let go. Like, it seems now looking back on season 1 that Rose was sort of shackled, like she was didn't really have a purpose other than being wife and mother, and maybe I guess runner of the household. She seems to be super comfortable like without all of the trappings of a like almost high society, type of woman living in New York on the Upper West Side, like I just feel like here she's not Abe's wife and grandmother and mother to Midge. She is just Rose and and mother to Simone, I guess.
Yeah,
Um
I
but she seems untethered.
Tiff, were you going to say something?
Oh, sorry. No, I was just going to say that I think she realized that she played the game and she did everything she was supposed to do. She followed the rules, and the end result wasn't what she wanted or expected. And so I think she was like, "Oh my gosh, I gave up so much of my life," and in the end, it just still didn't work.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree with that.
she didn't even get basic respect from this man who she'd committed herself to raising a family for. And like, not only him not telling her, like, I would understand that decision, that was Midge's business that he just happened to know. He wasn't told, he just knew because he happened to be there. So I almost understood that he didn't tell Rose that, that Joel wanted to come back. I respect that because to me that was him actually honoring Midge. But then you see his attitude when she walks into the kitchen, she's like, "Hey, I'm leaving. I'm moving to Paris. I don't have a life here. I don't feel respected." And he goes, "Oh yeah, lamb would be great for tonight." Like that
That's because he
that
told her that the maid would be making lamb,
that's just
and that's the only
absolutely.
thing he responded to.
Yeah, exactly. So like less the actual thing that made her want to leave and his reaction to her telling him, because he was just not listening to his wife. He had no respect. So in similar way, I think I said it very briefly during the episode when Rose said to Midge, "Well, like, look who's talking," about saying, "Oh, well, he's your husband. You need to stick by him." They were both disrespected by their husbands, and they both, well, Midge didn't decide to leave as such, but she did decide not to take him back at first. And it's the same principle of, well, you had a life partner and I had a life partner, and both of them didn't care about us. They hurt us and they didn't listen and they disrespected us. And I'm also moving on and I'm taking my life back. So I hope Midge comes around and actually says, "You know what? You're right. If, like, work on it if you want to, but also you're working on you. And if that's what you want to do, then you should."
Speaking of life partners, Joel came to see her, and then he basically, when she came to see him after realizing he was there, handed her his wedding ring. What did you think of all that? And then the conversation they had on the phone during the collect call.
Oh, it was a lot to process, I think.
I mean,
Mm,
he's now telling her that he's not going to get back together with her because he doesn't want her to quit stand up, and he can't be with her while she's doing stand up. Do you have any like less devilish hate for him
uh,
after that? Or
mm,
I mean,
mm.
because he's kind of like, he's basically saying, I want you to succeed at your new dream, but
I
I can't be there being the joke while you're doing it, because he is the joke
I
half the time.
I get it, but I'm also like, she's gonna be making the joke whether you're there or not. So like, I have some more respect for him for the fact that, because I think one of the big conversations we had in the final episode of last season was because we didn't get to hear him say much after he saw her. It was more like he was angry, he was crying, he started fights in the street. So we were all interpreting, well, like, oh, is he upset because she didn't tell him that she's a comedian now? Is it because it was about their marriage? Is it because he's jealous? We had all of these different, well, what is he actually reacting to? And I think it was a mixture of all of them. So I think I definitely thought he would be kind of a jealous, sulking child. So the fact that he is actually saying to her now, "You know what, you're good, you are good, and that is why you need to keep going." I do respect that. I don't love him, but I will respect that he was a grown up enough to say, "This is what you should be doing," because he could have, he hears her crying down the phone saying, "I love you, I want to be with you," which is a whole other thing that I will get to that in a second. But like, he hears this and he could have gone, "Well, then choose me," you know? He could have used the emotion in that moment to say, well, I want to be with you too, just stop doing stand up. I don't know if Midge would have been capable of maybe manipulating her quite to that extent, but she was emotional and she wanted to make it work. So maybe he could have done that and he didn't. So I will give him some respect for that. That was good of him to support her, even if it means they're not together. Um, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how I felt because, like I said earlier, about the kind of twist that I didn't see coming was they were. I knew all of season one they were going to end up sleeping together at the end, but I thought it was going to be the opposite. I thought it was going to be them realizing, oh, we don't work together anymore. But it became the opposite. It became, oh, we do still work together. Let's get back together. Um, so I don't know. I had mixed feelings about that, and I have mixed feelings about Midge after all he put her through and all she's gained in her own self to now be the one crying down the phone saying, "Oh, but I love you so much. I'm so in love with you. Please."
I
I
think
don't
she thought she was going to get it all. I think she thought she was going to get him back.
Yeah,
They were going to be a family, and she was still going to get to do her stand up.
that's true. I think you're right that some of the heartbreak came from losing the perfect picture as such. Yeah. Like it was heartbreak that he was saying, I don't want to get back together if you're doing the stand up. But yeah, I do think it was just she believed for a minute, even though it's funny because he didn't know. And I feel like she didn't tell him she'd been doing stand up because she knew that this was the result. On some level, she may have tricked herself into thinking, oh, well, it'll work out because he loves me again or he wants to be with me again. But yeah, there's a lot of layers. It's like an onion, guys. There are a lot of layers.
Well, also, she's coming to that conversation. She's making that phone call after the fight with her mother about you can't do this, you have a life. You know what I mean? Like, I think there is a little bit of like Midge might have actually thought, oh, you know what? Like, me and Joel, we're coming to more of an understanding. I'm doing my thing. We had, that whole scene where he's like, oh, wow, like, how long does it take for the marks to go away? When she takes the bra off, you know what I mean? Like, all that, like, let's lay it out on the table. This is who I really am. I don't wake up with a full face of makeup every day. Like, it almost feels like they're starting from a new place of like honesty when they get back together in the end of season one. Uh, and right here, it's like it's almost like that didn't happen, and she's now seeing it through her mother's eyes because her mother's argument in the entirety of season one is you don't leave your husband. That's just not what you do. You know what I mean? Or you don't let him leave you. You ask for him back. You do whatever it takes. It doesn't actually matter how you feel about it. And Rose, like Tiffany said before, like Rose did everything right. She did all the things that she was supposed to do, and it didn't work out for her. And so now she's sort of throwing all the rules out the window. And she's like, well, screw the rules. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna do this for me. And it isn't until she's confronted with the same argument that she's been making to Midge for an entire season that she's like, huh, like maybe I had a point, you know what I mean? And I think that's a little bit of a turning point for Midge to be like, oh wait, no, I got to get my husband back because I made a commitment, and I think that phone call is a desperate one and maybe not her in her right mind. And she's begging for Joel back in a way that we don't expect and we don't really love because I think it's fueled by finally seeing what her mother was so concerned about in terms of their relationship. And I think it's just one of those fleeting moments, where you're just so desperate that that everything is wrong and everything feels out of place. And here she is in Paris because her mother like up and left, and like I think she just feels the weight of all that, and that's why she makes the call, and like it seems like it could work out because the last time she saw Joel, we get that flashback, but like the time before that, it seemed really promising. So it's like, it's almost like when you come around to something with someone, and then like one bad thing happens, and then you're like, okay, like that sucked, and then you're kind of like, well, why can't we have it back the way it was before that bad thing happened? You know what I mean? Like that kind of feels like what she's doing, but I do think it's fueled by what her mother says to her and what her mother is doing in Paris.
I
And
Sorry, Jenny.
yeah.
I actually, that's kind of painted that conversation for me very differently, because I was definitely watching that with kind of most of season one in mind, of Midge's personal growth, and how she very quickly realized she could do it herself. She could have a job and she could do comedy, and she not necessarily was paying much time with the kids, but they were taken care of. And so I was looking at that and going, my God, how is she on the phone crying that she is so deeply in love with him and she needs him back, when this is, but no, having listened to you, I think you are completely right. It's desperation. It's not necessarily one, not that it's not genuine, but it's not something that she sat for a few days with and thought, maybe I should call Joel, maybe we could reconcile. It's just in that moment she'd stood on that bridge and watched all of those couples in Paris in love, and she sees her mother and her family's falling apart, and she doesn't see good right now. She doesn't see the good in her life because so much is falling apart. So I think you're completely right. That it was just this desperation fueled emotion. Like you said, a lot of us, when shit goes wrong, we want comfort, and we turn to people who might not necessarily be our comfort anymore, but we think, hey, they were comfort to me once. So,
Yeah, I mean,
why shouldn't they be comfort now?
it's kind of like, when shit gets real, like who are you calling? You know what I mean? And like I feel like they can really be not right for each other and really not be in a relationship, and she could be totally fine with that most of the time. But she's upset, like her mother and father, like her mother has spent the entire episode gaslighting them, like just completely like disconnected from reality. She's completely dismissive of what's actually going on. She hasn't even said, you know what? I know, I'm sorry guys. I just wasn't feeling great and I just decided to come here, and like this is my new decision. And she's not even talking about it. She's just kind of like, what do you mean? What's wrong? Like, of course I have a dog. Like I mean, it's just she's so outside of the realm of reality. Like it's almost like she's having a psychotic break. And of course, Midge and Abe are just so freaked out by that. I mean, anybody would be. And, I mean, I don't think it's very realistic that anyone would really do that unless they were having a true psychotic break. But at the same time, like, Midge is truly has truly lost her mother in this moment. She's just not there. It's kind of like, I mean, I feel like this is an ASP thing too, but like it's definitely like that scene in Gilmore Girls where Emily has like had it with the Penel and Lot thing, and is like smoking in her robe in the middle of the day and drinking and like, just sort of like whatever. And like, and Lorelai's kind of like, wait a minute, what has happened? Like it's very much that, you know, um, break with reality and break with what's usually going on, and like this air from the character of like, what do you mean, what's wrong, what are you talking about, everything's fine, I'm great. And clearly nothing's great. And so I don't know, I do think that phone call is to hold on to some semblance of reality, some semblance of comfort, some semblance of like the like timeline matching up, like, okay, like we were together, then we weren't, then we had a great night, then we had a bad night, like let's go back, like I just feel like her mother has presented her with this alternate reality that's very scary.
Yeah, I do think that when she was up on stage doing that comedy routine, I think she thought she was going to have it all. And she was just like glowing, shining on, and all that stuff. And so I think thinking back to that, and then what you were saying when you're pointing out that what her mom said to her is what drove her to that phone call and why she like breaks down the way she does. But yeah, it's very emotional. Regina, you I know you want to talk about something.
I do. I do. So, overall, this episode really missed the mark for me. But the one storyline that I liked was Susie's. Susie's storyline was
Yes.
a lot of fun to watch. And it was the one that I most looked forward to because I just thought it was so weird that we were suddenly catapulted from New York to Paris with Midge and Rose and Abe and everyone like that. And then the more it went on, the more it got worse. You know, then we get to the dinner scene where like Abe was about to pop a blood vessel, seeing Simone come out of the purse. And then Midge goes to the bar and has that disastrous scene, just casually dumping all of her trauma on strangers. It got worse and worse. I mean, the scenery was great, don't get me wrong. They're in France, they got the monies now to do it, but it made no sense to me at all. And I was like, you know what? I want to be back in New York. What's Susie up to? And so I always looked forward to us jumping back to New York to see how Susie was doing. So, what did you think of that storyline? Is my question to you.
I loved it. I right from the jump, like the fact that they stood there for like a whole 2 minutes being like, is it a girl? Is it? I don't think it's a girl. How could it be a girl? And even Susie, like we've talked before about how much that is a running joke that people like to say that Susie isn't a girl.
Well, and she's like, should I be? Or whatever she
Yes,
said.
Right.
exactly.
I loved
I
her reaction.
loved
Like,
that.
what is my safest answer?
Right? Because it's like, oh, well, they're looking for a girl, so if I say I'm a girl, they're going to take me. But if I say I'm a guy, they're going to have less reservations about beating me up. So, which is the safest option?
Right. I also love when they were sitting at the dinner table and they're all being friendly and chit chatting. I'm like, these guys are the dumbest kidnappers ever. And she's like, this is the best abduction I've ever had.
Oh
I
no, I knew these guys were dumb when they were sitting in traffic. Like I
yeah,
texted Diana this last night. Like New York City traffic is no joke. Like it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't care who you are or what you do. Like you're gonna go through it. It
totally.
doesn't discriminate.
My
Diana,
question is, okay,
tell Lee
so
about the Rockaways real quick. I
yeah,
love
I was
that.
just gonna say, like, I mean, the fact they're going to Far Rockaway, like, the Rockaways, especially in that time, was definitely the outskirts of normal society. That's where the mob ends up. Like a lot of the businesses in the Rockaways were like run by the mob. Like you die. Like that's where you end up in the river. You know what I mean? Like
You sleep
so
with the fishes
now,
out there?
yes, that is sleeping with the fishes 100%. And like I say that as a, as a descendant of New Yorkers. Um and that's just like how it's always been. Like now I have friends who like move to New York like from other places in the country, and like they like live in the Rockaways, or they go to Rockaway Beach like for a Saturday, like to for a day at the beach, and I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like, but it is different now, but it, in the last like maybe 10 years, but it definitely um like that scene on that, like, where that house is, like on that little pier, like that's real. That's absolutely 100% what it looked like and what parts of it still really look like. But anyway, I love that storyline. Like I love those scenes. The goons are hilarious. Like it's definitely fun. Um I don't really have any complaints about it except for the fact I don't know why it's happening, and I almost don't care why it's happening, but I'm just not sure what Susie's in trouble for. Like and I don't understand, but like what I don't understand, like about the scenes make up for in humor and like true New York stuff, like the accents are perfect. Those guys are definitely guys I've met before. Like it just feels very New York and real, and the fact that they bond over like, a girl from the Rockaways, cool, like that's definitely something that would happen. so it just kind of, I like that like sort of neighborhood loyalty point, like, we're not gonna beat you up because you're from the Rock, you're one of us, like like that is just so typical. So I really like all that, but I just don't know why she's in trouble, and I feel like I missed something.
I did guess at that in the episode very, very briefly, but I think Chris sensed that there was a big scene coming up. So she was like, shh, be quiet.
I
Um
thought it would be too long a conversation and you'd miss on
no,
some other
you're
stuff.
correct. You're
Yeah.
correct. My guess, though, I do think I could be wrong. I feel like this is maybe what we're being led to believe. But it's actually going to be, I think it would be very cool for it to be that we're being led to believe this is because of the other agent that she crossed, who had her essentially blacklisted in New York, right?
It's
Because
interesting you say that because John talked about that a little bit last night. And then after some discussion, he and Diana and Regina joked about how maybe it's Sophie.
oh, interesting. Oh, that would be fun. Okay, yes. Okay, I'm on board with that because that's I suppose I was gonna say was I think it's likely that guy, right? Because he would probably be really annoyed that she found a way because she brought Lenny, right? She brought Lenny to give Midge back some credibility after he's kind of talked bad about them all over town. So he's probably annoyed that she's found a loophole. So that's what I was thinking. That's going to be why she's being targeted. But maybe I think it would be very cool if that kind of builds up for a few episodes, that that's what we're led to believe is happening, but it's actually something from Susie's past, like completely unrelated to anything we've seen so far, because we don't know anything about Susie's past, right? We don't know much. So I think
Well,
that could be
we now
fun.
know that her uncle's gone missing and they got the thumb of their uncle sent to them and she has her uncle's jacket.
Oh, I
That's
love
what we
that
know about her
because he's
past.
like, oh, we know a guy who does thumb work. Like,
Yeah.
what?
Salvatore. Salvatore does them.
Oh God.
Yeah, so we've learned that Salvatore does thumb work and that Tony does not like give breaks, that he will really beat her up if he's the one that's sent.
And then you'll go for a
I mean,
steak
it's just,
dinner.
yeah. But we were talking about that, like how Sophie has all that money. Obviously, we saw Sophie's house, we saw the way she really is, and she has a lot of connections. So that was kind of something that was brought up when we were talking about that. And then the other thing that was discussed was what you had said, that maybe it's something that happened off screen that we don't know about and that we'll find out about later, because I don't remember them ever saying what it was that they were doing. And they didn't confirm or deny that they were working for the agent when she asked about it. They just kind of were like, yeah, maybe, you know. So, and the one guy wants to be a garbage man anyway.
Did
One
Well,
lady
Susie
one.
ask them if they're working for that agent?
She asked if they knew him.
Oh, I
And
completely missed that. I thought we knew no reason. I didn't even catch that.
well, and
yeah, when they were in the
also
car.
the way the mob works is that like like they wouldn't know who they were hired by. Like, like that's the thing. If they're hitmen, it would be like several layers of um I think like
Diana, what are you trying to
hiring.
tell us here, huh?
I watched a lot of like that type of, I just don't feel like the
Old New
agent would
York
be like, hey
family.
guys,
You got
like
New York family history. I'm kind of wondering about you guys. What was your last name again? Just
nothing.
kidding.
No, I just feel like, usually the mob doesn't work that way. Like they like it wouldn't even like the agent. I don't know. Like even if it was Susie, like Susie would know a guy who would know a guy who would know a guy. You know what I mean? Like not Susie. What's her name? The other comedian. What's her name?
Sophie.
Sophie. Yeah. I was like, Susie, no. I just feel like hitmen are just hired to hit. Like that's it. They don't, they just do the job, they get paid, that's it. They wouldn't know anybody else.
That's so that they can't like rat anybody out.
Yeah, I mean it's security for the crimes.
This is interesting. I really hope that I do assume it will be a big plot point this season, but I hope it kind of doesn't get wrapped up in like an episode or two. I hope it's an overarching story throughout the season, because I'm very invested. And if Susie gets hurt, I won't be happy.
Okay, so here's something that we kind of talked about last night, and I'm kind of curious what the rest of you guys think. I know that Diana and John and I discussed it. I can't remember if Nancy, Regina, Carol, or Tiffany chimed in on this, but I had asked after we talked about that whole flashback scene, and we were talking about how we, in the end, we kind of didn't like the way it was done. Lee, would you like it, or Nancy, Carol, Tiffany, any of you guys, would you guys have liked it better if that had been the opening of the episode versus the very colorful, kind of theatrical looking store opening that they did?
I don't
Where it
know.
picked up right where it left off last season, is my question. Would you like that done that way, and that's how we found out that information?
I don't know. I think I would have liked it
I
if they
think
just
the placement.
did a
I
like.
agree. The placement of that was totally in the wrong place. Like you're all in France and you're all like up in her act there, and then they all of a sudden like flash over to New York. And you're like, where are they now?
Yeah, it was weird. And where I didn't catch the beginning this time, I should have watched it. I should have pre-watched it, but I didn't think of it. So like I'm still a little fuzzy on how they opened it up as opposed to how last season ended.
The opening is my absolute favorite. One of my favorite of
Yeah.
all the seasons. Like how she just was like taking charge, and I just that thing was beautiful. Like the rest of the episode, it was kind of like I don't know, but
Yeah.
that one
It
The
opened
I
opening
with
was she was.
Midge at her new job as an operator,
I
Carol, just so
loved
you
it.
know what we're talking about.
Yep,
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it. I loved the camera work. I loved all the women and like their outfits and how they had the camera go across each person. I loved how like they did the camera angle, which was different. And I was like, how did they do that? They have to like climb across the switchboard to get each person's face. And
And then
I don't know. I love that part. And every
I
time I
love it.
see it, it makes me smile because it's like it shows how good she is at doing what needs to be done,
Exactly.
and that she was just like on the ball and boom boom boom, and it highlights like how she didn't really need a husband. Like she pretty much did everything for her husband, and she was just always independent and always strong. And so I don't know, that is one of my absolute favorite scenes
Opening.
of the
And then
series.
the other part where it opens and it flashes to Abe and Rose's apartment, and they're running around, and Abe is crazy, neurotic, going nuts because he doesn't know where Rose is.
I'm going to take it
Right.
So
that Tiffany would not have preferred having it pick up right where it left off last season, that
No.
flashback. And Nancy is not kind of somewhere in between.
Well,
And
no,
and
Carol
no,
doesn't remember.
I no, I don't think I don't like it where it picked up the flashback, but like I liked how it opened. But
No,
I
but
don't
but
think
Nancy, what I was
It wouldn't
asking is
have been a flashback though. It would have picked
if
up
if
the
they
right.
same
had
exact night
if they had
from
used the
season
flashback right at the
one,
beginning. Yeah,
oh
from the
that's what I
season
was
oh
one
then
asking.
no, I wouldn't want it right.
finale.
I liked how they opened it.
Well, and I liked like what
Yeah,
Nancy
no.
said about her like running around, like checking the kids. It's like that's the most maternal we've actually seen her. Like, are you missing anything? Or do you have any like? And then like looking at the baby, like checking the baby all over, and we haven't really seen her be that kind of maternal yet.
And then immediately
Yeah, she
commenting
turned
on
the
the
kids
fact
all
that her
around.
baby's eyes aren't symmetrical.
Right.
Right, we have to get ticket of that later, but where's and then they see the note like right in the middle of everything. Has this been here the whole time? Yes.
Because she's just been like, I'm gonna go do whatever I want in the middle of the night, and the nanny or the the maid is there for the kids, and she like just keeps moving them around in the other seasons, and just like yeah bye.
How about
But
you,
this
Lee? Would you wanted that opening changed to be that where that instead of it being a flashback, that being the opening and starting right there?
Um, I'm not sure, because I actually don't think I disliked it as much as you guys seem to have. First of all, I really enjoyed the actual physical transition that we saw of um Midge turning around and the stage background fading into the street. Or the club background, I should say. I thought that was really cool, and I don't know, because I'm thinking about the flip side of, I suppose, if Midge was telling that full story on the stage, like when we left her to go into the flashback, everyone was kind of still laughing. And to be fair, it wasn't much of a story, the flashback. If she'd said it out loud, it would have been like, yeah, and then I ran after my husband and he gave me his ring back. I don't think there would have been much to it. But when we came back, everyone in the audience was crying, right? So, like, they'd had extreme emotion in reaction to this revelation. And I don't think that could have naturally happened in that scene without cutting away to let to let it come back to this big room of emotion. So I don't know. I get why they did it, because I suppose they wanted to hold a punch for the middle of the episode, right? Because you're kind of waiting to find out where Midge and Joel are, because we left on Midge and Joel, so we're waiting like what's going on with Midge and Joel. So I suppose if they just but then again, I do appreciate when movies or shows between seasons or installments go straight into the scene that they left off in. I do appreciate that. I think I'll have to think of it and think on it, and then maybe at the weekend I'll have a more kind of concrete opinion. But I don't think I disliked it as much as everyone else seemed to. I do, I don't think I found it as jarring as most, but I don't know. But I agree with Tiffany though. I did really enjoy that opening scene. It was very fun, even though I'd say that was almost a bit jarring, because I like a lot of us kind of went, "Oh yeah, she got kicked off the counter. We forgot that happened."
Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah, we got a lot of information. Um and
So
I almost do wish that I had made made time to rewatch the season 1 finale, so there were less times where I was like, "Oh yeah, that's happening." But I'm glad. I feel better. I feel caught up again now for the weekend. I will say I need to head out in a minute, guys. If anyone would like to stick around and discuss some more, I'm happy to make some people moderators. But I do need to get going.
That's okay. There's another event soon, so we might as well just
Oh yeah, of course.
end it.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you all for joining. For those who are watching for the first time, like me, or who were there last night, it's always a pleasure. I love the discussions we get into in these events. I think we have really good, in-depth thoughts. Which is I love it. I could talk about these things all day, and it brought a new aspect into our discussion today, where we could be like, aha, we're not just looking at the culture in New York, because we've picked up a New Yorkian, whatever the correct terminology is. And New Yorker is probably what I should have said, right? A New Yorkian.
Diana, you're a New Yorkian.
You're a
That's
New
nice.
Yorkian. And we I'm gonna trademark that. That's gonna catch on like crazy.
Hey,
They,
did you note, Lee, that the woman who moved to Paris said that when she said, "Oh, you're American," she says, "Not really, I'm a New Yorker."
oh
So
wow.
I'm sorry, Diana. Are you just a New Yorker, not an American, like the translating lady?
I loved that because it felt pretty right to me. Like I liked it a lot.
It was funny. So anyway, sorry, Lee. Go on.
I'm glad I am glad that we're watching all of these now, right before season 4 drops, because it's been so long since we've even seen season 3. I'm like almost forgot what happened.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm glad that I'm glad there's going to be that season to go straight into, and the fact that Kelly and Milo are in it. Oh,
I know that's gonna be so
sign me
awesome.
up.
There's so many Gilmore people in this already
I have been
as
told
it
that.
is.
We haven't come across any yet though, have we?
Yes, we have.
There's
We've
been a
come
few here
across
and there. Yeah,
we've come across Billy, um, her
Oh,
friend,
revival
Imogene.
people?
Imogene is
yeah,
from
yeah. Some of them,
and
the bartender at the, and then obviously Susie was
Oh,
on Gilmore. Say because I got to take off. That Lee, I just want to say thanks for hosting, because Diana and I could always talk about this show like for
Yes,
hours
we
along with
can.
Buffy. But I gotta pop out because I got a thing going on with work now here at 2 o'clock. So I'll talk to you guys
Of
later.
course. Thank you for making time, Chris.
Yeah,
Yep.
see you
Have a
guys
good one.
later.
See you guys
Yeah, bye,
later.
guys.
Bye.
Erin and Honey, did you have an opinion to share before we left?
Oh, no. I was just gonna say, if we were done, I was probably gonna drop out and open the Bebop room.
Yes, I am going to close up now. I'm going to have some food, and I hope you guys enjoy Bebop. Bye,
Have fun, guys.
everyone. Thank you for joining. Bye.